Third type of adjusting entry is accrued expense. Accrued expenses are the expenses which have been already incurred but not yet paid. So basically they are the payables actually. Expense हो जाता है और हमने अभी तक पे नहीं किया होता, that is accrued expense. So accrued, अगर हम उसका मीनिंग देखें, it means accumulation. Most common types of accrued expenses are salaries expense, tax expense, and interest expense. So basically, these kind of expenses incur in one accounting period and are payable in the second accounting period. But generally, any expense which has already been incurred and but not yet paid are the accrued expenses. And since we said the payment has not been made yet, so the nature of this adjusting entry is that cash comes later. So let's there won't be any originating entry. Why not originating entry, since there's no movement of cash before, so that's why it would be nil. And since I said usually these expenses uh, remain unpaid in one accounting period and are to be paid in the second accounting period, so we'll directly make adjusting entries at the end of the month or maybe at the end of the accounting period. Let's discuss an example of accrued expense. Just a second. Um, Suppose there is a company who the company borrowed rupees 6,000 from XYZ Bank on December 1st, 2019. Uh, Now, this small loan bears an interest of 6%, and this 6% interest is to be paid after a year. So it means if we have borrowed in December 1, 2019, we have to pay on December 1st, 2020 after complete year. Now, the thing is, on December 31st, 2019, one accounting period is going to end, the accounting period of 2019. When we are going to work on our financial statements and when we will be closing the year, we have to make an entry, an adjusting entry for adjusting the interest of a month. Now, how am I going to do this? Um the interest on 6,000 is 6%. So first let's do a calculation how much interest a company has to pay to the bank for this borrowing. 6,000 multiplied by 0.06% gives you 360. Now this 360 amount is to be paid after a year, obviously with the principal amount. So since we had borrowed it on December 1st and 2019 period is going to end, one accounting period is going to end, so we have to adjust this interest for 1 month. If I divide 360 by 12, I get 30 interest expense per month. Now, how I'm going to pass this entry? On December 31st, I know there is an interest expense, rupees 30, and we know whenever expense incurs and expense increases, expense is debited. So we are going to debit an interest expense by rupees 30. We know जब भी हम कुछ डेबिट करते हैं we have to credit an another account. And since we know this interest will be paid in the next accounting period, ये December 1st 2020 में पे हो रहा होगा. अभी we are not paying anything, so it's going to be a payable. And ये कौन सा पेबल है, एक्सपेंस कौन सा है, इंटरेस्ट है, एंड कौन सा पेबल होगा, इट वुड बी इंटरेस्ट पेबल. सो वी आर गोइंग टू क्रेडिट इंटरेस्ट पेबल. व्हाई आर वी क्रेडिटिंग इट? We know whenever liability increases, liability is always credited. Remember, जब भी हम whenever a company is receiving, कंपनी को पेमेंट रिसीव करनी होती है, टू ही उसके मोड्स होते हैं, या तो आपको कैश मिलता है या तो बाद में पेमेंट मिलनी होती है, विच इज नोन एज रिसीवेबल. सिमिलरली अभी जब भी कंपनी को पे करना होता है, अगेन पेमेंट द कंपनी हैज टू मेक अ पेमेंट, दो ही उसके मोड्स हो सकते हैं, या तो आप कैश पे कर सकते हैं या यू आर गोइंग टू पे इट ऑन अ लेटर डेट. सो अगेन इट वुड बी अ पेबल. Always remember when you are recording any accrued expense entry, आपको हमेशा एक्सपेंस को भी कैटेगराइज करना है, क्लासिफाई करना है, एंड अगेन पेबल को भी आपको क्लासिफाई करना है. आई नो आप अकाउंट्स पेबल भी इसकी जगह लिख सकते हैं, बट इट्स बेटर इफ यू गिव अ प्रॉपर नेम टू दैट पेबल. So we have made an adjusting entry for an accrued expense. Why it's an adjusting entry? Because one accounting period has ended and we are adjusting an interest expense against the interest which is actually due in the second accounting period. Now, suppose second accounting period had started and now it's December 1, 2020. Now on December 1, 2020, you have to pay the whole interest expense. When on December 1, 2020, you are going to pay the interest expense. First, you are going to record the expense for remaining months. For 1 month, you had already recorded an interest expense in the previous accounting period in 2019. Now we are left with 11 months. First, we are going to record an expense for the 11 months. We know whenever an expense incurs or expense increases, expense is debited. So first, there would be an entry of interest expense. For 12 months, interest expense was 360 and we had already recorded for 1 month which was 30. So now we are left with 330. So interest expense for 11 months would be 330. We know that previously we had a liability of rupees 30 in 2019 and we recorded that liability with the name of interest payable. Since now it's time to repay the whole interest, now your liability is going to be paid. When your liability is going to be paid, so your liability will automatically decrease. Whenever liability decreases, liability is debited. This is the liability that we are going to pay off in 2020 and the amount was rupees 30. And how much amount are we going to pay? We are going to pay rupees 360. We are going to pay in cash. We know cash is an asset. Whenever asset decreases, asset is credited. The amount is 360. You can see, you can tally the amount. The amount is 360. 330 plus 30 makes 360.